In the twilight of the 2nd century, the Han Dynasty, once a beacon of civilization for 400 years, began to fracture. The mandate of heaven, that divine right to rule, seemed to waver like a candle flame in the wind. The great empire, which had stretched its influence across Asia, was rotting from within. At the heart of the decay was the imperial court in Luoyang. Here, Emperor Ling, a ruler more interested in personal indulgence than the welfare of his people, sat upon a throne increasingly isolated from reality. His court was not a council of wise men, but a nest of vipers. The real power lay not with the learned officials or the noble families, but with the 10 attendants, a group of eunuchs who had masterfully woven a web of corruption around the emperor. These eunuchs, led by the cunning Zhang Rang, controlled access to the emperor. They sold offices and titles to the highest bidder, filling the bureaucracy with sycophants and incompetents. Honest officials who dared to speak out were silenced, exiled, or mysteriously disappeared. Justice became a commodity, and the law was twisted to serve the greedy. The treasury, once overflowing with the wealth of a continent, was drained to fund the emperor's lavish projects and line the pockets of his favored attendants. Palaces were built, exotic gardens were planted, and rare treasures were hoarded, all while the empire's foundations crumbled. Beyond the gilded walls of the capital, the land wept. Decades of peace had led to a population boom, but the land could no longer support the people. Compounding this, a series of natural disasters struck the empire with merciless frequency. Floods ravaged the fertile plains of the Yellow River, washing away homes and harvests. Widespread droughts turned once productive farmland into cracked, barren earth. Plagues swept through the countryside, and swarms of locusts descended like a living curse, devouring whatever little remained. For the common peasant, life became an unbearable struggle for survival. Crushed by impossibly high taxes levied by corrupt local officials eager to please their masters in the capital, farmers were forced to abandon their ancestral lands. Millions became refugees, wandering the roads in search of food and shelter, their faces etched with despair. Starvation was rampant, and the cries of hungry children echoed through villages that had fallen into ruin. The bond between the ruler and his people, the very bedrock of the empire, was broken. The emperor, cocooned in his luxury, seemed deaf to their suffering. This widespread misery created fertile ground for rebellion. In the shadows, new faiths and secret societies began to flourish, offering a desperate populace a glimmer of hope, or a path to vengeance. Whispers of a new beginning, of a heaven that was no longer Han but yellow, started to spread. A charismatic healer and Taoist mystic named Zhang Jue began to attract a massive following. He preached of a coming apocalypse, a great cleansing that would wash away the corrupt Han and usher in an age of great peace. His followers, known as the Yellow Turbans for the yellow cloths they wore on their heads, saw him as a savior. He taught them esoteric arts, healed their sick with blessed water and charms, and, most importantly, gave them a target for their rage. He told them the blue heaven of the Han was dead and the yellow heaven would soon rise. Across the 8 provinces, his disciples organized the desperate and disillusioned into a disciplined, fanatical army, preparing for a coordinated uprising. Their numbers swelled into the hundreds of thousands, a tide of discontent ready to crash against the weakened gates of the empire. As the year 184 AD approached, the air grew thick with tension. Omens and portents were seen everywhere. A black mist descended upon the capital, and strange whispers were heard within the palace halls. A hen was said to have transformed into a rooster, a deeply unsettling sign of the natural order being overturned. The empire was a powder keg, and the fuse was lit. The Yellow Turban Rebellion was about to explode, a cataclysm that would irrevocably shatter the Han Dynasty and plunge the land into decades of brutal, unrelenting warfare. This was not just the end of a dynasty, it was the end of an era. The stage was being set for a new kind of conflict, one that would not be decided by court intrigue alone, but by the clash of mighty armies and the ambitions of legendary heroes. From the ashes of the Han, new powers would emerge, warlords who would carve up the empire and fight to reunite it under their own rule. The age of heroes, the era of the 3 kingdoms, was dawning, but it would be born in fire and blood on the ruins of a once glorious civilization that had lost its way. The twilight had fallen, and a long, dark night was about to begin. Thank you for joining us on this journey back in time. If you found this story compelling, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next chapter in this epic saga. We'll see you next time as the rebellion ignites and heroes begin to rise.